Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tech Informist. This is episode 30, recorded live on February 9th, 2015. My name is Kevin Harvell, and the Tech Informist is a show intended to help inform and educate listeners around the world about the world of technology with lively and entertaining commentary about the latest tech news along with interviews with guests from the tech industry. Again, my name is Kevin Harvell. I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, JJ Hammond. JJ, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic because everything is awesome.
Somebody watched the Lego movie recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. So people can get involved with the show. They can find us at Twitter at Tech Informist, Facebook, Google Instagram. One other thing I would like to mention today is, do you use iTunes? We would really appreciate if you could take just a few moments to head over there and leave us a review and subscribe to the show. It would really help us spread the word about the show and help get it noticed. So thank you in advance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So right now, many people are watching live on our website. If you visit thetechinformist.com/live, you can watch, join in the live chat, which we have a few members in the chat room this morning, and you can also find out what our upcoming guest schedule and episode schedule are, what days they're going to be, what times they're going to be. And before we move into our tech news, I'd like to give the results of our recent straw poll that recently completed. We asked last week what people were thinking about when it came to the length of our episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Because moving to 3-hour-long episodes a week, that is a lot of content for some people to
Digest.
consume. Yes, digest. So we put out a poll asking, would you like us to shorten the episodes down? Obviously, our guest interviews, those episodes kind of have to, stay an hour, maybe even go longer, as they did with our most recent guest, Richard Devine from Windows Central. Thank you, Richard. Great talk. If you haven't listened to episode,
that dude is great.
Yes, if you have not listened to episode 29, do so.
Mm-hmm.
So 71% of responders were in favor of us shortening the show, between 30 45 minutes. We'll see how that goes. We'll try to make things as short and still as informed and entertaining as possible.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for all your feedback. But you can continue sending us feedback and suggestions and everything else to contact@thetechinformist.com via email.
And thank you, everybody who does that. I mean, we really enjoy feedback. We really, really do.
All right. We're getting more and more feedback. Dave, Daryl, I mean, just we've had a few that have been sending us some really interesting feedback. So, time to move into the news of the day. JJ, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, today I would like to talk about, hey, this is cool. This is a cool how-to. Have you ever wanted to convert your books into ebooks? Of course you do. Of course you do. Amazon has a paid app that allows you to convert at your timely leisure. Now, I'm not going to be kidding around when I say when I was back in school, I used to do a lot of conversion of my books into digital format, so I didn't have to carry those big, ginormous books around. But it takes forever, so, if you go into this already knowing that, you can deal with it. But this does make it a little easier. Instead of doing one page at a time or doing other things, you can crop the scan, and that makes it much more easier to do. So ripping movies from DVDs can be of questionable legality, but it's not hard to do. Ripping music CDs is even easier and legally less great. So why can't you rip your books into ebooks? Well, Amazon now has a way for you to do that, just presuming you have a scanner, a wallet, and plenty of time on your hands. First, you have to go to Kindle Convert app. It's $49 right now, currently on sale for $19. It only works with Windows 7 and 8 PCs, so Macs and Linux users, sorry, you're out of luck at this time. But I could see you being able to still kind of do this in some form of fashion. Then you laboriously scan in every single page of the book you want to convert. Assuming you survive the flashback to photocopying books in college, you'll have then images which Amazon will convert into a Kindle book via optical character recognition, OCR. The good news, perhaps the only thing good about this process, is if you have handwritten annotations in the notes in the book, they'll be included in your eventual Kindle book. Also, there is a matching program that will detect if your book is already in the Kindle App Store so that you can purchase the book. may save you a lot of time, and or if you've already had the book and you're willing to just do this on a weekend or something for a couple of books at a time, which will take me forever if I ever wanted to do that because I have a lot of books. But this is really cool. This is one of those how-to things that I think slipped through the cracks, that what we do here at the Tech Informist is inform you guys on all things tech news related. So this is awesome. Kevin, what do you think?
I actually do think this is kind of neat because looking at this article on Popular Science, one of
I'm a
the
geek.
images,
Love this.
yeah, one of the images they've got there is the fairy tales by the Brothers Grimm.
Hmm.
So by looking at that image there, you'll see it's kind of a classic traditional looking book instead of just the plain boring Kindle
I know.
book.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives it kind of
Character.
a nice
Right?
visual
Yeah.
effect, effect to reading as well. But man, I've got some books that are seriously like 1,000 pages, and these, I mean, we're talking
Hmm.
like 4 or 5 inches thick. And I'm like, no way would I sit and scan that. I would just
Right.
go. I would have to buy the digital. But when it comes to reading, I prefer the physical book myself anyway. So
I do to a point. I mean, I think when you do traveling a lot, you think in your head, I wish I had this book that isn't other places and
yeah,
not this version of this book, because again, a lot of publishers try to spend a lot of time on the delivery, right? A lot of it is on the aesthetics, and I think, again, looking at this particular book on this particular story, it's aesthetically appealing to look at what seems to be paper, like legit paper, right? Instead of this just web page, if you will, where you have a white background and letters, right?
yes.
Kevin, you're up with the next story.
Okay, so we recently found out that Microsoft has trademarked the term Windows 365. Now, obviously, many of you out there think, well, that sounds an awful lot like Office 365, which is a subscription version of the Office platform for, creating Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoints, Publisher, et cetera, et cetera. So now this is from NeoWin. They are talking about last spring, the idea of Windows 365 popped up several times. The logic behind it was that Microsoft might soon offer a subscription based Windows service. Much like Office 365, the rumors hedged that Microsoft would charge an annual fee for the OS instead of a one time typical fee that is generally quite expensive. Now, with Microsoft going this free upgrade for Windows 7 and Windows 8 8.1 users to Windows 10 when it releases later this year, it's free up to you have 1 year from the date that it launches to upgrade for free. After that, if you choose to wait for some strange reason, you will have to pay whatever the fee will be for it. There's kind of rumors that it will not be as much as the typical $120 fee that it would cost to buy 8.1 right now. So if Microsoft does do this, maybe that is another way that they're going to release Windows. And it could also be for enterprise customers as well, because the free upgrade within that first year is not available to enterprise customers. So what do you think, JJ?
So my first reaction to the story was, oh crap, because this is going to give, I think, a little bit of credence to the headlines that I can already see, which is they're going to charge you for Windows at some point, right? Like at some point in the future, you will be charged a subscription fee to use your own operating system. And I think that scares the crap out of a lot of people that just want this stuff to work because they don't understand how Office 365 works. They don't understand how every company, for the most part, is moving to a subscription-based model, because if you look at financial statistical data, you can make more money over time with subscription than you can with outright buying of software and services. That's just a fact. And they being analysts have watched this progress over time. What concerns me is that they have purchased this, yes, and that it is possible to do in the future, yes. But if you read a little bit into the story, and maybe you covered this, I think that they also need to cover their selves a little bit here to protect against people trying to buy that name And I think that even the cheeky Torius Rub says this, the subscription on this on the corporate side makes sense, because I think it does. And I think what they're doing with Windows 10, insofar as having dedicated enterprise users, have a specific subset of Microsoft employees specifically focusing on their process. I think that that makes sense. But I do believe, and I believe this for now until somebody tells me otherwise, that for consumers, Windows is always going to just be a free deal because of what Google does with their Chrome OS and Android, and what Apple does with iOS and now Mac OS 10, which we're going to talk about a Mac here in just a little bit. But that's my thoughts on the story.
Gotcha, gotcha. So it looks like you're up next with a Apple mining story. What's this all about?
So many of our listeners, if they don't already know, they need to know that I kind of give a crap about other people besides myself. So do you know what is in your phone? I know that you don't know what's in your phone, so don't feel bad because I didn't even know what was in my phone. This article basically says we're Apple, and you could really insert any tech company here into this article, by the way. So it's where Apple gets the tantalum for your iPhone. Now, if tantalum sounds a little familiar, it's because tantalum is the name derived from Tantalus, which was an old mythological story of uh, of a person being stuck in just a pool, a little small pool of water, not being able to drink from the water, and having food just outside of the reach of his fingertips, and always trying forever in a state of eternity to try to get the fruit from the tree, but he can never get it, right? So, okay, that's already a little depressing, but let me drill into this a little bit further. Don't mind the pun when we're talking about drilling for minerals here. Nobody likes to think his or her iPhone was made from minerals derived from a country where warlords and mass rapists profit from the mines. So a year ago, Apple made a bold claim. It had audited smelters in its supply chain, and none of them used tantalum from war-torn regions of the Dominican Republic of Congo. That's where the aforementioned things are going down. While Apple acknowledged that it could not make the same claim for gold, tin, tungsten, and other modern essential commodities that are made and mined in war zones, the announcement about tantalum, just this one thing, was an important step for human rights advocates who have long called for more transparency from these companies. Now, this article really goes in deep with there are Microsoft, anybody that are making these things before the late Steve Jobs passed said there's no way to legitimately, and unless there's a scientific way to prove where minerals come from, it's next to impossible to try to figure out where the gold and the tin, even some of the silver or whatever, is being mined from. And I think that this is one of those things that we as a society have to collectively come together and figure out a way to monitor this stuff, because nearly all computers, cell phones, and other high-tech gadgets that use tantalum, a purely blue-gray mineral found in Brazil and Australia, is also found in Rwanda and the Dominican Republic of Congo. Our Democratic Republic of Congo, I don't know why I said Dominican, I apologize, which has endured the International Rescue Committee calls the bloodiest conflict since World War II. More than 5 million people have been killed since 1998, and rape has been used as a weapon of war, and slave labor and conscription of child soldiers are very common. So when I talk about this kind of stuff, I talk about it to bring awareness to a subject that I find kind of close to me, which is let's actually give a crap. And the real kind of moral of the story here is to just legitimately go into these things with your eyes open and just don't stick your head in the sand, because your butt can still get kicked. So, Kevin, what's your thoughts on this story?
It is very interesting and very eye-opening. I would have never. It's not something that I ever think about. You know, when you go to buy a new phone, or you're reviewing a phone, or you're looking at new phones and new devices. Like, well, it's obviously it's made of materials because it's a physical object. You just don't always sit and think, child labor, you know, rapists,
Yeah.
warlords and crime and stuff like that in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is where the minerals that help make this up came from. It's pretty eye-opening. It's very, very interesting. I definitely urge people to read this Newsweek article because it's actually pretty long and looks like it's very informative as well. So
Yeah.
check
Yeah.
this out.
Yeah. Not to make everybody sad because you know me, everything is awesome. But I think that we need to walk into these stores, walk when we're doing these purchases, we need to do it with eyes open. And if you're going to do this, maybe go one step further and if just think if all the 74 million people who bought iPhones came forward and said, "Hey, we
No.
want you to be a little bit better about, protecting, kids,
Right.
yeah,
People.
people, human beings." When you look at this article in particular, the very first thing that stands out to me is that picture of the people inside, or not inside, but on and in this. I couldn't work in that, I
No, no,
mean,
no, no, no.
can you see what they're in? I mean, they're just in like little puddles of what I would consider radioactive material.
Yeah, there's no telling what's in there.
There's no telling what's in there. And this dude's holding up this thing, and it's just like, oh, I'm so sad for you. I wish there was a way that you didn't have to do that. Anyways,
All right.
let's
Which kind of makes my next little topic here, it's definitely a first world problem. Definite first world problem here.
go ahead.
Now, I've been trying to buy a MacBook Pro since last Wednesday, actually. And, when I went to the Apple Store, one of them here in St. Louis, not going to mention the specific one, and I was told, okay, I wanted to, finance it. Like, okay, got approved for financing. It's like, okay, well, the model that you want to get, which is i7, 2.5 gigahertz, 16 gig RAM, yada yada yada, is it's not one that they keep in store, so it's not something. It's one that has to always be made. So he said, I'll leave a note, and by the time your financing gets approved and you get the notice that you can come use it, it'll be here. So I get contacted by the business department on Thursday. And we kind of introduce ourselves and stuff. So I figure, well, it'll be here on Friday. So I call them up on Friday, and I'm like, I'd like to check the status of the MacBook that is supposed to be there. See if I can come down and pick it up. Well, we're not finding any record of it. I'm like, well, so I gave the person's name that I was speaking with, and it's like, well, he's with a customer right now, but he is here with a customer. I'll have him give you a call back.
Right.
And we had some things that we were supposed to be doing. So I'm sitting there waiting for a call. I'm like, you know what? Heck with it. I'm moving on with the plans. I don't care. Ended up not getting a call at all Friday, so I call Saturday morning as soon as they open,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry, blah blah blah." So I talked to a business person in the business department there. She's like, "Okay, yeah, you can do this, do this, do this." So everything was going good. That okay, you'll get confirmation. Here's the proposal, the agreement, and here's the pricing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go ahead and get this placed.
Mm-hmm.
So I get an email this morning from another member of the business department. How are you planning to pay for that again? So he's like, call me
from
ASAP.
From my offshore accounts.
Yeah.
That's how I plan on paying for this. No.
So dear Kevin, call me ASAP. And about how you want to pay for this. So I said, well, I was using the Barclay financing. He's like, yeah, we can't do Barclay financing with a business purchase. So I'm like, so I opened a line of credit for no reason, et cetera, et cetera. But now things finally look like they're getting resolved. He's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You go ahead, just order it on the Apple Store, have it on the website, have it shipped to the store, and we're gonna give you a nice. You'll still pay what you were originally quoted.
Nice.
Like so now, obviously, what should have only taken like 2 days is going to take
Right.
a week, possibly, maybe even a little longer than a week. So for a first-time Apple user, and I really do not understand why they call the people in the retail stores geniuses. they need to just drop that term because that is so incorrect.
Yeah, so I had one of those things where I don't want to alienate people who listen to the show who may or may not be either a former employee or an aspiring employee or whatever of Apple. But you have to just take a moment and think to yourself, this is not cool, man. Like,
No,
don't say you can do something if you can't.
right,
That's one of my morals of this story. The second one, if you're gonna do anything, do it yourself.
right. If
Because you
you're
can't count on anybody but you
yeah,
to
if
follow
you're
through.
unsure, if you work in retail and you're unsure,
Hmm.
go ask one or two other people. Hey, can we do this? This guy is a first-time customer,
It's an honorary tile.
right? And it's he kind of runs a tech website, so he probably talks about this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
he
I mean,
may mention this.
I could have went to the Microsoft store and purchased any configuration Surface Pro 3 I wanted, probably right then and there. Now
Yeah,
I'm not wanting to sit here and get into a
Microsoft versus Apple
yeah,
retail thing.
on who's selling more of these devices. And I mean, I understand they cannot keep every computer in stock for that. But I mean, it's kind of a typical configuration. Don't just have your base model there. Have a couple that have some
Yeah,
slight
yeah,
upgrades as
right,
well. And this
right.
could all been taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just kind of frustrating, but I'm still looking forward to it, and I'm sure I'm really going to enjoy it. We're going to get a lot of really cool work done with it. So, yeah.
Well, I've already said my piece about that, so let's blaze through to the next one. Did you know that there is an app for sexy and not so sexy bearded men?
No.
I fall in the first thing. I know you didn't. If you did, then sure. Uh, Bristler or Bristol or it's
I
Bristler. How would you
yeah.
say that?
I'd say it's Bristler, just without the
Bristler?
E.
Bristler. Okay. Is a dating service for bearded men and people, okay, who love
Oh.
them. All right. Now, this is pretty legit. Some of these beards I'm looking at and I'm like, I would have never thought to style my beard like a freaking crazy person. Anyways,
Yeah.
Kat Kissick has preferred bearded men for a long time, as she can remember. It's a personality indicator that may be this man likes to have fun. Maybe they're creative. Maybe they're just trying to express their individuality. And guess what? They're from St. Louis. So when she saw, not the bearded people, but this person, when she saw a Facebook post a couple of weeks ago about Bristler, a dating website and app for men with beards and the people attracted to them, she signed up without hesitation. She said she wanted to meet interesting people, wanted to have some good conversation, wanted to end up making out with some of them. Hey, hey, hey.
That's
Hey, hey,
okay.
hey. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Kissick is far from alone in her predilection for scruffy gentlemen. She's one of 60,000 people from around the world, from Iceland to Iraq, who have signed up for the Bristler since its launch last October. Bristler's helm is John Kershaw, a bearded 28-year-old software developer who lives in Manchester, England. By the way, Richard Devine, English people so far have not led us astray. Do you remember the guys we met from
Redgate.
Redgate? Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Love those guys.
Yep.
All right.
Ben and Chris, great
And
group of chaps.
yep. Nice one. So, stroking my beard, I think I can say that this is pretty cool. I bet you didn't know this, so go check this out. It's Bristler. I still don't know about that, about the way to say that, but that's pretty cool. I bet you guys didn't know about that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
very interesting.
I
Looking
thought it
at the
was
one
fun.
picture.
That's what we do here. We inform. You're up,
Yeah.
Kev.
Yeah, looking at the one picture from Beard Championships, the one guy looks like he's got an octopus on the bottom of his face. Got them all. It's different. I'll just say that. It's just different.
So the one guy looked like, gosh, what was one of the lollipop people from Wizard
Wizard
of
of
Oz?
Oz.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right, you're up.
Okay. So this is very short. Most of us here that probably listen to this and are, myself included, JJ, I know we're both Netflix subscribers, and we're
Yes,
both kids of the 80s, and we like
yes,
Legend of Zelda.
Yes.
So Netflix is reportedly working on a Zelda live-action TV show. So this is over from gigaohm.com that says Netflix is working on a live-action TV show based on the popular Nintendo video game Legend of Zelda, according to a Wall Street Journal report that quotes an unnamed source pitching the show as Game of the Thrones for a family audience. I suspect
Yeah.
that means no red weddings, but lots is still up in the air. Netflix is still looking for a writer for the show, and the journal cautions that Netflix or Nintendo may kill the project altogether before it ever reaches our TV. So it is not set in stone, but
It's a
I
pipe
mean,
dream. That's
yeah,
all this is about. Hey, we have a pipe dream.
yeah.
We
But
would like to share it with
who
you.
would not want that? Because I mean, I know JJ, you're probably not alone in thinking you want to watch Game of Thrones, but a lot of the content just not quite your style.
Oh God, I'm gonna lose some followers, but I just
We don't have to rant. You don't have to rant.
okay.
It's okay.
All right.
No, I had seen that and thought, ooh, that would really be kind of cool. I mean, it
No,
had
that would be
a
cool.
lot
No,
better than
yeah.
the Zelda cartoon from years ago. Well, excuse me, princess.
Right. I
You
think
remember that
yeah.
Saturday
Like
morning cartoon?
Mortal Kombat is another like so I think there's tons of I think that at the well, so to speak, I think there's a well of tons of like 80s 90s games like related to you got the Zeldas, the Final Fantasy stuff. I think that a person or a corporation could do a really good job bringing those stories to like a more mainstream kind of put a whole bunch of support behind. What do you think? I think that'd be pretty cool. I mean, look
I
at the
think it
success of
would be.
Transformers.
Mhm.
I mean, even though they're awful, from a story perspective, I mean, the visuals are great. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
I'm,
there's
yeah,
actually a lot of Transformer cartoons out now. I mean, you got
yeah,
Rescue Bots and all these
hmm
new games that have been coming out on mobile devices.
yeah. You showed me the other day, so that was pretty hot.
Oh yeah.
So, you want to learn how to not be creepy to girls in public or on the net? Oh, here we go. All right, so you know when I first did, okay, look, everybody has to check out this because in this virtual reality training for sexual harassment program, the guy and okay, so the image is ridiculous. One of he has two posters on his wall. One
Yeah.
says Transformers, which screw you because not everybody who likes Transformers is a molester or whatever. And Batman Begins, and he's wearing I want to say that's a New York Giants jersey. I
Yeah,
don't know.
or maybe even Buffalo Bills. It's blue with white.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. So most women have dealt with unwanted sexual advances. In fact, one national survey estimates that 65% have experienced some form of street harassment. But a study of Southern Methodist University found that teenage girls were less likely to report being sexually victimized after undergoing assertive resistance training in virtual reality. What? While virtual reality is routinely used to train soldiers or treat anxiety disorder, training of this nature is new. Virtual simulations seem to be more immersive than face-to-face role-playing, said clinical psychologist, somebody's name I can't pronounce. The study's lead author, the participant is not thinking anymore about being in a room with us in a psychological study with another people around. They or she is focused on what she is seeing through the glasses and what she is hearing. The study included 78 female students aging from 14 to 18 from an all-girls urban high school. First of all, were asked to fill out questionnaires related to their experience with sexual violence and victimization. Next, the girls were split into two different groups, and I'm not going to go into that. And then they each had 90-minute trainings, simulations. One of them is a guy that's drinking in a car. The other one is, it's like, the whole come over here and sit on my couch of love. There's tons of pretty interesting stuff. This is hilarious, but I also think this is ridiculously like I cannot believe we haven't been doing this already, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well, actually, what's sad is the fact that we even have to do this because people want to treat each other, you know,
very
in
bad.
disrespectful ways.
Right.
So turn off the TV, turn off the music, stop emulating what you see on Grand Theft Auto and music videos and stuff like that because, sorry, that's not real life. That's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, but I also think on the flip side, like if you're a dude, I think going through these training simulations and putting yourself in the female role or
Hmm.
whatever will bring more of maybe some innocent things that you didn't think were off the top
Yeah.
of your head, right? Like you wouldn't have thought of as aggressive or comes off the wrong way, right?
Right. Yeah, I
So
mean, some
we
people
have a lot of
just
guys who
don't
listen to the show.
realize.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of guys who listen to the show, and I actually wouldn't mind seeing what this training looks like, just because I think it's important to, public awareness, that type of thing.
Right. So another good article. Good job.
You're welcome.
All right. So let's talk about.
Everything is awesome.
Oh gosh, here we go. Dropping. A lot of people, obviously, you walk around and, for example, if you go to a high school
Hmm.
and you look at, students' phones and stuff, the majority of them will have cracked and just shattered screens. So
Yeah.
Corning has unveiled the latest revision of its signature Gorilla Glass. Now, yet again, the company claimed to have produced a stronger glass that's more resistant to common drops and accidents that your smartphone can experience in everyday use. Since it's still so new, only a tiny list of manufacturers, including Samsung, are using Gorilla Glass 4 at this point, but Corning is already looking ahead to what's next.
Hmm.
So today, as reported by CNET, the company announced Project Fire, now that's Phire, a new product that promises to combine Gorilla Glass 4's damage resistance with scratch resistance that
Hmm.
approaches sapphire screen, glass technology.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, later this year we're going to have the iPhone 6 launch, and in the months leading up to Apple's iPhone 6, I mean the 6S, so the iPhone 6 launch, many expected the company's current flagship to move away from glass, which had been supplied by Corning for years, in favor of
Hmm.
sapphire, but
Hmm.
Apple did not go that route. Now, with the upcoming Apple Watch, Apple has already confirmed that its Apple Watch will be coated with the nearly scratch-proof material. But any hopes for bringing Sapphire to the iPhone screen unceremoniously collapsed when Apple's partner GT Advanced abruptly filed for bankruptcy.
That story is hilarious, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, you might get some minor scratches and stuff, but, as soon as I get a phone, typically I put a screen protector on it, and I've only dropped one device, and thankfully it didn't crack the screen, it just shattered the back. Hello, Nexus 4. Why companies put glass on the backs of devices, I'll never understand. Looks good.
JJ's sad face. I'm looking at my 1520 and it's bad, guys. I mean, it's bad. I should have put a screen protector on this thing from the get.
Yep, from the get-go.
No, this is a good story because I think that, a lot of people were super stoked about the Sapphire and the future of Sapphire. I think that Glass needs a competitor so it keeps, putting out good stuff because I'm looking at something that's Gorilla Glass and I'm looking at a whole bunch of chunks and scratches that are missing out of my phone. So
Right.
I think this is a concern. I also think that there's going to be a lot of movement in this area just because of how many screens get cracked so much. And I think that this is yeah, definitely a good one. And I like the idea of having a scratchless surface.
Yeah, I mean, the company plans to start selling Project Fire, likely under a different name, to manufacturers later this year. So we might see some devices with this technology sometime in 2015.
Yeah, Brad, totally agree with you, man. So one thing, if Windows died off like as a phone or whatever, which is not going to, by the way, it's not going to. And in a recent interview with Satya Nadella, he said emphatically, "We are supporting Windows Phone forever." But so if something was to happen, what excites me is the possibility of a Ubuntu. Ubuntu. I always have a hard time saying that just because I don't know the proper way to say it. And don't try and help me. Let me be white about this. But so you Ubuntu, yeah, Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Mhm.
We can make like a rap song about like how different ways to say that word. It's been a long time coming. Finally, the Canonical.
Canonical.
Canonical. Wow, I can't get my crap together today while I'm trying to talk. Is ready to release the first phone after the team had come together and getting ready to release a 4.5-inch screen, 540 by 960 resolution with a 1.3 gigahertz quad-core processor, roughly around $195 with a gig of RAM, 8 gigabytes of storage. They have a cool little phone walkthrough video on this post from Engadget. Thank you, did a great job on this. It looks neat. I don't like the resolution because anything honestly below 1080, and I know that a lot of people argue with me that 720 is fine for some. Nope, it's not fine. But so don't do that. So if you can help from it, I would totally try this phone out just because I think I would gravitate more towards the Linux-y type of open source project stuff than anything, even more so than probably Android. As far as like my go-to hobby, play around with, and all this other kind of stuff. So the reason why I bring this up is I think that any phone that challenges the big two and the distant third will have a tough time. But I also bring this up because they're not even broaching the idea of having this in the United States, which is really interesting, right? Because I would think that you would at least have some type of presence here in the U.S. I mean, what do you think about this particular story?
It's interesting, but I mean, it's a lot like the Firefox phone, where it's out, but it's in emerging markets, which means not in the United States. And there's a lot of other companies, the Huawei's and Xiaomi, whatever they call it over in Korea, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Robert says, if people can't pronounce it, they're not likely going to buy it. So
yeah. Like Huawei. The only one of those, ZTE, just because you have to say out the letters. That's the only reason why people can pronounce it, dude.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, when you have a lot of these smaller companies, I mean, even if their devices are really good, which a lot of them do look good, especially from Huawei. I mean, their devices really do look nice. But it's like trying to get a foothold in the United States is tough when it comes, when Samsung from your refrigerator, your TV, your washer dryer, that name. So naturally you're going to gravitate towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brand awareness in the U.S. and all over the world is huge. It's huge. It's just huge. So before we move on to the next story, the reason why I brought this up was I don't think that they should do this phone. And I'm not saying that because I don't think that this would be cool. I would totally, if I had the funds, go buy one of these things. I just don't think that phones is where it's at anymore. I think phones have hit their design peak. After I saw HoloLens, I realized that phones are going to be just ubiquitous. They're going to be pretty normal. They're rectangles, and in BlackBerry's case, they're a square. But don't even get me started with that. So they're rectangles. They have screens on them. They do things rock on. There's not going to be anybody that comes into the space new and beats Android and iOS right now, or even Windows Phone as the distant third. It's not going to happen. I would rather them focus more on trying to bring the OS as a possibility to be installed on, like you can go to, like if you want to get an Android phone and then custom ROM flash something on there or whatever. I would rather them focus more on those efforts, like a CyanogenMod type thing going on, than an actual device. I think that the devices themselves are tapped out. We've seen this from the Google Aura project. It's tapped. This market is tapped. There's no more real hardcore innovation that can happen unless I'm way wrong. Aside from the Aura project, I think this market has reached its engineering heights.
Well, I'd love to get some feedback on this thought. Imagine walking into a carrier store and you see the hardware of the phone, the appearance of the phone that you want to buy. And whenever you go to purchase it, they ask you, okay, would you like Android, iOS, or Windows Phone installed on here? And within 5 minutes, you've got the hardware you want with the OS that you want. Where they're in there selling, the manufacturers are selling hardware, not the OS. The consumer gets to choose what OS is on the hardware. I'd love to know feedback of what people would think of that idea.
And Kevin, while we're talking about OSs, let's talk about your next story.
Yeah. So speaking of OSs, most people know that Windows Phone 10 is going to be dropping, kind of not the full version, but this is going to be the previews.
Mhm.
Going to start rolling out likely any day now. It could drop at almost any moment.
Yeah,
I would
really.
almost think
Yeah.
sometime this week. Seems pretty legit. Windows Central has mentioned today that the first wave of Windows 10 preview devices will likely include the HTC One, the Lumia 1020, and the Lumia 1520. Now, that doesn't mean that those are the only devices going to get the tech preview. It's just those are probably going to be the first round of devices that'll get it first. So those of you with the
Mhm.
920, Lumia Icon, and obviously the 520, and even the newer versions that only have 512 RAM,
Mhm.
it's probably going to take a little while to get that to land on your devices.
Right.
So I mean, Joe Belfiore is tweeting out, they're going to get it working on 512 megabyte devices. You're probably just not going to get all the features that, some of the other devices will
Well,
get.
you can't. I mean, because
No.
the sensors aren't in them. Like some of the. Uh, I mean, you can't because the hardware's not there. It's like, I don't know, really want an HDMI cable, but it not actually existing in your hand. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? It's not there. I'm excited. I think this is great for people who were worried when they got their HTC One M8 version, which locally a lot of people got from the store. In fact, the last time I was up there and I was like, "Hey guys, how's the HTC One M8 for Windows selling?" They were like, "Actually, really, really well, surprisingly well." Especially for those people on Verizon who want Cortana and Windows Phone 8.1. I'm not going to get into Verizon, so it's okay. But anyway, so that's cool. And then on my 1020, yay, because I used my 1520 and I didn't want to put that on my 1520. I'm not as I'm not like Kevin. Let's just say that, and just willing to do that kind of stuff and take out the time to roll back once I realize I made a big mistake.
Yeah. I
All
mean,
right.
just real quick, there's been, some of the bugs that have been reported by users with the phone edition. Now, obviously, it's only really pushed out towards Microsoft employees. That some of that feedback is Windows Phone 10 seems to drain battery very fast and it gets the device hot with simple things like phone calls. Animations are not smooth. HTC One M8, you cannot hide the on-screen buttons, and they are above app bars and the keyboard. Glance screen does not work on Windows Phone 10, at least for the HTC One. And quiet hours turns alarms off. So,
Mm,
I mean, as expected, this is going to be very
yeah.
early software. Like
Yeah.
they said, if it's your daily driver, you might not want to do it. So,
Right. Right. Right.
so I'm looking forward to putting it on my 1520 because it's not my daily driver at the moment.
Well, before we move on to the next part of the show, I just want to thank everybody in the chat. I want to thank you guys. This is a lot of fun, and I'm really glad you guys took the time out to be here with us. And I totally agree. Asking upon booting up the phone what kind of operating system you want on there is pretty cool
All right.
thought too as
I
well.
do agree, Robert. That's a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
idea
it's,
for
it's a
that.
great idea. So before we get into the next part, also I wanted to say the MS Mobile Show, msmobileshow.com. Vernon E.L. Smith and myself and Kevin, we have started a Microsoft Mobile Show podcast where we're going to talk about all things Microsoft services on iPhone, Android, and iOS so that for people who are looking to get their news read to them basically because that's what we're going to do, and then we're going to have fun and lively commentary of course from sites of Windows Central, WP Power User, we got NeoWin, we got tons of different stories where we're going to pull this information from Microsoft headquarters as well. We're going to have guests on. It's going to be really awesome. Just go to the site, bookmark it, go to all the social medias, subscribe or link or not subscribe yet because that's not it's not in the podcast directory yet. But go to the website, bookmark it, and keep checking back in and on. I think a lot of people are going to really like that show, and I just wanted to give a little promotion there, Kevin.
Yep, yep. You got to
All right.
promote. Spread the
Well,
word.
given our feedback system on the Tech Informist, we have listened to our users, our users. Can we call them users? Yeah, because we're like, we're like virtual drugs, right? So, Silicon Valley and Daredevil teasers look awesome. I'm super stoked about this. This is HBO's Silicon Valley and Netflix's Daredevil. Looking good. I like it. Kevin, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the teaser for Daredevil, but I think they have the right approach about it.
Yeah, I've only seen the photos from. I haven't watched the trailer just yet, so
You should.
I need to. I mean, I love the Daredevil storyline and all
Hmm.
of that.
I was excited to see what CW did with the Arrow. I mean, he was just kind of a whatever character, and they made him into a totally hardcore dude, man. They got well, we'll get into that maybe some other time. But if you're running Windows Phone or Windows 8, I suggest everybody go download Halo Spartan Assault if you haven't already. That game is a lot of fun. It works great on both systems. So I just wanted to throw that out there as my application and TV picks of the week.
Yeah,
You're up, Kevin.
that's what, $4 or $5 for
Yep.
that. I
Yep.
mean, unless you can catch it on sale, which isn't
Right.
not too frequent. So the show, I'm gonna kind of like talk about a little TV show as well because I was always a big fan of the Wonder Years growing up as a kid, and obviously that was set back in the '60s and '70s. But it's a new show and it's been around. It's in its second season right now, and it's called The Goldbergs on Wednesday evenings on ABC. Now, just getting to watch this, Adam, which is like the main character in the store or in the show, he's always, Transformers and Ghostbusters and just all kinds of stuff. Nintendo, Atari, just all that stuff. It's really great. If you grew up during the '80s, Saturday morning cartoons and all that stuff, just living in the '80s, love the music and stuff. Check that show out. You're missing out on really it's a great comedy. The cast is hilarious and
Yeah,
it's fun.
they did a good job capturing that era, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, they did a pretty good job, and everybody likes watching TV shows and that from their younger years or whatever. That '70s show was popular. Heck, it's still on reruns all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of nostalgia there, and I think it's also a way to look back at those and kind of relive those moments again, for better or worse, but I think more for fun than anything else. And that there's another one. It's called Surviving Jack, I think maybe that was on Fox. I don't know if it got canceled or not, but it was hilarious. It was about this kid whose dad was a crazy person, but it just Sarah was like, God, that if we ever had a kid, you would be just like this dad. You would be just like this dad because you're a crazy person. I was like, yeah, I know, thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, babe. That vote of confidence is really going to help when they want to throw me Charlie, back the truck up and hit me with a tranquilizer dart. So, and put me in a padded room. But anyway, so that is our picks of the week.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for the show. So, JJ, unless you have anything last minute to say, let people know where they can find you.
At JJ Hammond Music on Twitter is the best place to find me. We did an awesome job with time on the show. I just wanted to say thanks.
All right. So, and again, my name is Kevin Harvell. Find me on Twitter at Kevin Harvell. Also on Google Plus as well if you'd like to find me over there, plus Kevin Harvell. So we'd like to thank all of our listeners and viewers. We truly do appreciate it. Thank you again also to all of those who hopped in the chat room today. To submit any topics for upcoming episodes or guest suggestions, please email them to contact@thetechinformist.com. That does it for another episode. So from everyone here at the Tech Informist, consider yourself informed, and until next time, we're out.